Good morning, everyone. What are here? I think everyone is familiar with this iconic landmark, and it's the Parthenon, also known as the Temple of Athena in Athens. And it was built over 2,500 years ago and is an enduring symbol of ancient Greece. Right? It's lasted wars, it's lasted weather, it's lasted earthquakes, all sorts of disasters, and it's lasted for 2,500 years. And the metaphor and the premise is to think about the work that we're doing. Right? So like ancient Greece, the programs that we're on also need to endure long and difficult journeys. Right? There's battles, there's challenges, there's all sorts of obstacles that we need to face. Most of the programs and projects are much more complex, much bigger, and much longer than they've ever been. And they continue to increase in size and complexity. And including things like changing scope, there's resource challenges, there's always sort of the unplanned risks and issues that come up, right? Financial issues, stakeholder battles, and so on. And the premise here is, if these programs are getting bigger and we need to have them be long-standing and longer enduring, then we need to set them up with the right structure that enables them to be successful and to handle the duration and all of these challenges that you see on the page. Standish actually had an assessment that they do every year of project and program delivery. And if you look at last year's findings in a study they call the Chaos Study, over 70% of the failed projects were the size medium and up. So 70% of the medium to large projects are the ones that have been failing. So not only are programs getting larger, but the success rate of larger programs continues to decline. And I think I've seen other studies that have it up near 80%. And so this is a real challenge of the environment that we live in today. And so what I sort of proposed here is what I'm calling the Parthenon of Programs, which is setting up a program infrastructure that enables our projects and programs to withstand the challenges of time. And this is a model that I've used on several programs that I've run over the last few years. And so you can think about the foundation as the structure that we have of the programs that we set up, and how do we set that up to really maximize the effectiveness of the delivery of the teams. There's three pillars that, it looks like the rendering is a little bit off on this page, but there's three pillars that sort of support the key aspects of the program. So the first one is sort of your program office, process, and tools. The second is the people, and the third is planning. And over all of that is the overarching ceiling of management that manages over all of that, ensures that obstacles get removed, and provides the level of tracking and transparency that's required. So similar to the real Parthenon, here's sort of a structure to consider in how to plan out our programs and projects. So what I'll do for sort of the remainder of the time is go into detail of each of these items. And some of this, I suspect, wouldn't be new for the audience here, but I'd ask to sort of consider these items in the context of building out sort of this holistic structure, because I think individually each of the pieces will make sense, but it's really about managing our programs and setting them up holistically in a framework like this. That is really what allows them to be successful over time. And with the bottom, with the structure and sort of building up, this is the foundation of the program, right? This is setting up the program in the way that really optimizes the work and the resources. And most projects and programs have several layers of work. In fact, the program that I'm running now, it's a near $1 billion program. And it's really I would even call it a portfolio, because underneath my portfolio, there's 5 individual programs, and under that, there's a total of 45 individual projects. So how do you organize this work in a way so that you have discrete pieces of work that are managed at the project and program level, and that you can set up the structure so that overlaps are considered, work is managed end to end, and so on. And so that's really, again, setting it up properly. As I mentioned, the third bullet, logical buckets of work so that there's specific scope assigned to each of those projects, each of those programs. We'll talk about clear roles and responsibilities and accountability, and then managing the work end to end. So the last few organizations I've worked at, the project structure is a little bit different than the organizational structure. And in almost all cases where we have large programs, the programs span organizational levels, yet a lot of times they're set up by those organizational boundaries. And we'll talk about the model. And again, I don't think anything is new on this page for any of this audience, but it's really about sort of thinking about how are we going to set up the structure properly to account for all of these considerations. So what I've used in the past is what I'm calling solution teams. And so the program that I'm on now, I took over about a year ago. And literally the first meeting I had was a status meeting. And one of the teams, so I work at an insurance company, so one of the teams was the claim processing team. The processing team reported status that they were green because they could make their October milestone. And they were very happy about their ability to make the October milestone. In subsequent status reports after them, the team, the web team, the reporting team, the finance team, the clinical team, all of the subsequent teams that were dependent on this project were all yellow or red, because while the claim team could make their October date, their plan was so far to the right that it didn't allow any of their downstream consumers to make their date. And that was because nobody was work end to end. They were managing it sort of at that orange level on the bottom there, the delivery team level. The end-to-end solution would not have met its milestone, and the project would have failed. So what we put in place now is, again, what we're calling solution teams, which are managing end-to-end solutions across organizational boundaries, and so that we have sort of planning and management and testing at sort of an end-to-end level. And you know, I mentioned the planning example. There were several examples in testing where the work was not tested end-to-end, and we had some significant fallout because we weren't testing the data and the interfaces and the scenarios end-to-end. We were testing that at sort of an organizational level. So the solution team model is one way of organizing the project work so that it's agnostic to organizations and it focuses really, you know, it sort of bridges the gap between project scope and the delivery teams, the teams that are doing the work. And there are many benefits to this model. There's single accountability. So now instead of going to the claim team and the finance team and the reporting team and so on, there's one set of management, one set of scope, one set of testing, one set of solution designs that is accountable sort of end to end. And we don't have to get into organizational boundaries or turf wars. Plan perspective, I mentioned, so now that we've evolved the model this year, there's one single plan that manages across the work. So we're tracking to the progress and the risks and so on at the end-to-end level, not just the team level. I've talked about scope and design as well as testing. So this is just one model. Next evolution to this is recognizing that we also live in a matrixed world. And so on top of the solution model, we have a matrix model. And I think many organizations are set up this way as well. So with multiple projects in the portfolio, each solution team has a lead project manager, a lead business analyst, a technical lead, a testing lead, who are accountable to those roles on the left. So if I think about it, you've got vertical delivery, right? Vertical delivery in the context of a project. So project one has discrete scope, project two has discrete scope, and they're managing their work within the scope and in the context of these solution teams. But all of these individual roles are also accountable to the horizontal leads to make sure that everything ties together. So if I take the purple, the delivery lead, solution team technical lead who is accountable for that solution. And the leaders are accountable to bang out the code or you know, whatever their deliverables are in the context of the project, but also in the context of that horizontal purple delivery lead on the left side, who's accountable to make sure that it all hangs together across the entire portfolio. So you get this kind of matrix accountability where you have vertical accountability for project delivery and horizontal accountability to make sure it all comes together end to end and it all comes together you know, consistently